So, gentlemen, what are we going to do about the trophy for the Hungarian Grand Prix this year? The Austrian Grand Prix has a rather lovely wooden trophy. The French have a somewhat robust model gorilla, and most of the others are silverware. So what can we do that is different, memorable, and unique? Zoltan, what do you think? We could make the trophy out of carbon fiber. No, that is too predictable. Attila, what do you suggest?
How about if we make the trophy out of exquisite porcelain?
Excellent suggestion, Attila. Consider it done. I, for one, can't see any problem with making a trophy out of a very delicate, brittle material. I'm sure Lando Norris or whoever is on the podium will obviously take great care of it.
Hello, welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth, he's Zog.
Hello.
And a huge welcome back to Sarah Leach. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, hello.
Seems like months since we've spoken.
It does, actually.
Have you been following the F1 as closely as I know you probably have?
Yes, I have. We seem to have a further lead with Max Verstappen, so there hasn't been any sort of surprise winners, I suppose. He's just been gaining momentum.
But we did have a surprise person on pole for the last race.
That's correct.
Didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Lewis showing his quality again. And it's good to see that he really can still deliver. He really likes that circuit. But setting a record for the most number of poles by any driver at a single track, I think. That's quite an achievement.
I'd forgotten that. Yeah, I mean, there were other records broken that weekend as well, weren't there? If you count the last race of last season. Yeah. Red Bull have won 12 races in a row if you count the last race of last season. 11 races if you don't, which puts them on the par with McLaren, is that right?
It's beating the McLaren record, I think. Because didn't McLaren get 11? But in any case, I think this counting the last race of the last season, it's a bit of a fudge. I think you've got to do it in the same season for it to count. So, but hey, I'm sure they're going to do it next weekend. We're just going to wait another few days for them to break the record.
As much as, not just we love F1, and as much as we admire the skills and strength of the Red Bull team with Max Verstappen at the moment, it's really annoying that no one else is winning, isn't it?
Yes, it is a bit. There has been a little bit of excitement, though. You know, I suppose the only stories that we can go with are all the stories of all the other teams. And there's been, moments of brilliance from many of the other teams, so including McLaren, for one.
Yeah.
They have had a couple of really good weekends. And then we've also got Fernando Alonso. Aston Martin have been doing well this year. And then we've also got changes in the Red Bull seats. So some stories going on in other parts of the paddock.
The McLaren mid-season revival is a great story, and I'm sure we love seeing that. Lando is delivering a spectacular performance after spectacular performance. And Piastri, he's lived up to the hype. They've got a great combo there, and they're actually developing the car enough to let them get decent results. So, yes, it's a little bit boring that Verstappen just keeps winning race after race after race. Fair play to him and Red Bull for doing as well as they are. So, actually a lot of the drama and a lot of the excitement is really coming further down the field. It's the best of the rest. We've been getting a lot of drama, a great show from McLaren in particular. Mercedes have got it together though, and Russell was great this week. At the same time that Lewis was terrific putting it on pole, unfortunately couldn't really match that performance in the race. Russell did wonderfully to pull himself up. It was a very messy qualifying. He lost out. He didn't even get out of
Q1.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't even get out of Q1. And from that very poor start, actually did beautifully in the race to get the finish he did. But of course, the other great story this week was, our old favourite, Danny Rick is back.
Yes.
Happiest, smiliest man in F1. How great was that?
At which point, we hand over to Sarah.
Yes, I suppose so. My fellow Australian in Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, it's great news. I was just reading now, actually, that the Red Bull team, it was a Helmut Marko, had already told Nick de Vries during Ricciardo's testing session that Nick de Vries had lost his seat, because apparently Daniel Ricciardo was just killing it in his testing, and he was doing so well that his lap times would have got in pole position, against all the other cars. So he romped it in getting a seat with AlphaTauri, given that, I suppose, AlphaTauri wasn't performing up to the standards that they wanted. So Daniel Ricciardo deserves his new seat, and the word is that he wants to work towards a seat in the top team in 2025, because Perez's contract runs out at the end of 2024.
Christian Horner has said very publicly over the last couple of weekends that, no, Perez will be our driver next year, which makes me think...
Well, he is his driver next year.
Yeah, contractually.
Well,
but the fact that Christian Horner's saying that makes me think that Perez ain't going to be their driver next year. That's generally how it works in F1, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Well, it'll be down to his performance, won't it? If Perez does well enough for the rest of the season, they'll keep him in the car. If they're not happy with him, they'll yank him out and put someone else in there, and then, it could be Ricciardo, if Ricciardo, again, does well enough for the rest of the season. He had a tricky weekend in Hungary with the incident at the start, but after that, he got back up to 13th and had a better race than Tsunoda, which is what he needs to do. But he needs to do more than just do better than Tsunoda. He needs to excel if he's going to have a chance of getting the Red Bull seat back.
Sarah, you said last year, I remember, that you thought it was really smart of Danny Rick to go back to the Red Bull stable with a view of potentially getting back on the grid. I was a bit cynical about that. I remember thinking, no, I think his days are numbered. I think the damage was done at McLaren. But when he then said, I'll drive for AlphaTauri, I thought, no, don't do that. That's a pig of a car. You're not making it easy for yourself. You're better off just staying in the simulator. But it's clear that, like you said, Sarah, they've got enough data based on what Danny Rick is capable of now that he might be able to do something for AlphaTauri. Do you reckon he will better Tsunoda?
Well, he did this weekend, didn't he? Daniel Ricciardo came 13th and Tsunoda came in 15th, not far behind him, but at least Daniel Ricciardo got ahead of him, for Daniel's sake, that is, I suppose. But I do think Daniel will probably do better than Tsunoda. Daniel's got more experience than Tsunoda.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been driving for years and years, and I think Daniel, more than anything, just wanted to be back on the grid. No driver, I think, in their right mind would turn down an opportunity to be back in any car. I don't think. I'm not sure what driver has ever turned down that opportunity and said they'd rather stay in the simulator seat.
Fair point. Having said all this, how do we feel about Nick de Vries? Personally, I think he was made some kind of sacrificial lamb. We know how good Nick de Vries is. He's a very, very capable driver. He was tremendous in F2, became the F2 champion. He earned a win, the championship in Formula E. But coming into AlphaTauri was a trauma for him, but they didn't give him much bloody chance. That's typical of the larger Red Bull family, isn't it?
Well, they did it to Pierre Gasly. They demoted Pierre Gasly, but they didn't completely boot him off the team, I suppose. Pierre Gasly got demoted from a Red Bull seat down to AlphaTauri, and then he really proved himself and got picked up in another teams.
I mean, they are ruthless, and they don't tend to give drivers as much time to prove themselves as some other teams might. They're ruthless, but they're also winning every race at the moment.
Exactly.
So maybe we should be a little bit cautious about being too harsh on their management style.
It works.
It's working, I think.
Yeah.
It's tough if you're a driver, but they only want the best. They want the best drivers they can have in those seats, understandably, and maybe they're a little bit more hard-edged in their process of getting the drivers into the seats than a lot of other teams are. Yeah, it's harsh, but on the upside, maybe they, more drivers get a chance to prove their worth there than maybe in some other teams.
Yeah, okay.
There's a flip side.
Yeah.
You could argue there's a flip side.
Yeah. AlphaTauri, however, their days using the nomenclature AlphaTauri are numbered after 4 years of using that brand?
Yeah.
Apparently they're going to rebrand the team next year. Any suggestions what they could call it, what they should call it, what you'd call it?
Maybe something like Red Bull Academy.
Oh, very good.
Just go for the boring option. Just go back to Scuderia Toro Rosso. You know, they're the Red Bull sister team, not junior team, as they've said. They're Italian. Yeah, Scuderia Toro Rosso works.
Well, what did Toro Rosso mean?
Red Bull in Italian.
Oh, well, there you go.
Toro is bull, Rosso is red. I'd call them Red Bull Italia. That would work. Then it allies them
that would be good.
closer to the team and gives a sort of a Italian identity to the team that is based in Italy. Well, up to now has been based in Italy, because apparently the model that they're going to use for AlphaTauri from now on is the same as the Haas model, in that you buy as many bits as you can from other teams that the rules allow you. So you basically make your own monocoque and probably front suspension and aero, but your suspension, your gearbox and your motor comes from elsewhere, and arguably even the concept. And that the new version of AlphaTauri, whatever it's called, the Red Bull Academy, Red Bull Italia, Toro Rosso, or even Minardi, that's what I think they should be called. Go back to Minardi. Come on, they've got great heritage. Give them a win, you know. But apparently the plan is to move a lot of that decision-making process and the technology to Red Bull Technologies in the UK. So their Italian identity becomes arguably less important.
I think it'd be a shame if they lost that Italian identity. Why they would think the Haas model works particularly well, I'm not entirely sure. But
good point.
You know, if that's what they're going to do, yeah, it gives them an opportunity. It would make sense to maybe go in another direction with the branding. But if you just call it something like Red Bull Italia, it's just too close, I think, to Red Bull. I think you need to have an identity that's a little bit further removed to avoid confusion.
There's another one going, which I think would be a good fit for AlphaTauri. We know that Sauber, badged Alfa Romeo at the moment, are about to become Audi. How about if Alfa Romeo decided that they might like to stay in Formula One after all, and did a deal to rebrand AlphaTauri with a PH to Alfa Romeo with an F? And that would give you the Italian identity. It's a good name, a good brand. I know it's getting away from Red Bull, but they're looking for independence. Every team needs to stand alone financially, don't they?
And if you want an Italian identity, Alfa Romeo is a terrific one to be able to take on. I wouldn't have a problem with that, although, I don't know, the confusion between, well, maybe it resolves the confusion that has long existed between AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo. You know, oh, the Alpha's gone off, which one? Well, now we know.
Yeah. And as the two Red Bull teams are ditching Honda, Aston Martin will pick up Honda engines and possibly McLaren as well. I don't know. It does mean that AlphaTauri, or whatever they're called, if they are Alfa Romeo, will be using the Red Bull Ford powertrains. Okay, so that means they can't brand the engine as an Alfa Romeo. It means that it's got to be Red Bull Ford. So I don't know, Mercury, Ghia. That's a good Ford Italian name. Any of these names would suit that team. Hey, I've gone deep fantasy now, which is what I like.
Nothing wrong with that.
Enough respect to the Red Bull thing. Sarah, I don't know if you were watching Qualificazione, as we're talking Italian, on Saturday, but when Perez went out and spun off on his warm-up lap, the cameras picked up a little boy in the stands sobbing his heart out.
I saw that, and they brought him in to meet him, which is really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they gave him and his dad VIP passes. He went into the garage, he met the drivers, he sat in the car. There's a lot about Red Bull I dislike, mainly that they're winning everything. That's the main thing I have against them. I also think them a bit harsh. But the fact that they did something, not just PR, but generally kind. There was a little boy crying there. He was destroyed. The idea that they went to that trouble to do that, bless them. Respect, Red Bull.
Yeah, good for them. Good for them. Absolutely.
All right. Max Verstappen leads a championship by, was it 280-something points he's got at the moment? Is that right? I'm not sure.
It's some very large number. Pick a large number and you'll be close.
Yeah.
I can tell you exactly.
Go on. Tell us.
We have Max Verstappen at 281 points, followed by Sergio Perez at 171. Fernando Alonso is still coming in third at 139. Closely behind in fourth is Lewis Hamilton, 133. So Lewis might be able to win the third Drivers' Champion if he can surpass Fernando Alonso over the next few races. But, yeah, Max Verstappen is just light years ahead.
My question is, when could Max seriously wrap up this championship? I've been digging into this, and there seems to be several different answers. If he continues winning at the rate he does, every time, he'll either win it in Mexico or the is it
Singapore, maybe,
Singapore or Qatar, one of the Middle Eastern races we've got coming up. Have we got a Qatar race? Have I imagined that? But it's going to be soon, and it's going to be before the end of the season. And I bet even if he wins the championship, he's not going to take his foot off the throttle. He's going to continue winning anyway, isn't he? Because he's got a car that can't not win. Well, unless you're Perez. Harsh.
Yeah, as you say, he's not going to lift and coast for the rest of the season. Once he's sealed it, he's going to carry on, and there's no reason to think they won't dominate the whole season.
Well, good luck to him. And Sarah, thank you for joining us. It's been nice to hear your lovely voice again.
Oh, it's lovely to see you and speak all Formula One again.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Zog, you stick around and let's talk Goodwood with Alex.
Will do.
Did you know that Gareth Jones on Speed has a YouTube channel? There you will find many of the Gareth Jones on Speed video episodes recorded for the show over the last 19 series. Plus, lyric videos for On Speed songs. My personal favourite is the one with Gareth dressed up as a purple-haired moon girl. No, really. Simply open YouTube and search Gareth Jones on Speed. Gareth Jones on Speed, for your eyes as well as your ears.
Jones on Speed! I think I should start this part of Gareth Jones on Speed by singing a song, a Bruce Springsteen song. Summer's here and the time is right for racing up the hill. Not in the street, but up the hill. I'm talking about Goodwood because 33.33% of the people on this call at the moment were actually at Goodwood this year. Alex, have you dried out?
I have dried out. The wind burn hasn't quite gone yet, though.
Wind burn?
Yeah, I don't know how familiar you are with everything that happened this year, but it's supposed to be a 4-day festival, properly in full swing. I was scheduled to be there Thursday to Saturday. On the Thursday, I've never seen it quite so busy. The weather was glorious, which was great, but it felt like a Saturday of any other year. It was stacked with people. It was ridiculous. But other than that, the Friday I spent under lock and key with Jaguar Land Rover, playing with some stuff of theirs, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the Saturday, I was going to be driven up the hill in a Bentley blower, which would be quite fun. And I went to my digs for the night, and lovely Wayne from Bentley came out and said, "Look, I'm terribly sorry, but there's a 95% chance that tomorrow's going to be cancelled because of high wind." So basically, it would be fine, except all those giant temporary structures, all those big monoliths that are designed to show off lovely cars and use a lot of marketing budget, they're really big. And some of them, they've got big holes in them, but then they've got high ceilings, so you end up with big sails. And if the wind got above a certain speed, some of them might have disintegrated a bit. I heard a rumour that one of them, they've got wind measuring things on the roof. One of them, if the wind speed got above 37 miles an hour, it was an immediate evacuation and a 15-metre exclusion zone.
Wow.
Well, and when you've got big temporary structures, it's in the nature of most temporary structures that they blow away a little bit more easily than permanent structures.
Yes, just a bit. So the whole thing was called off for safety, which I entirely get behind. It was disappointing for me, but I'd had a day and a half there anyway. I think they're coming up with plans to honour tickets from this year, next year, or they're sorting out refunds or whatever they're doing. But yeah, they made very much the right call because it was a bloody windy day that Saturday. I was driving back up the A3 in a Defender and nearly got blown into the lane next to me. And if I'm in a 2-ton box, admittedly a slab-sided 2-ton box, it was a bit sketchy. So, yeah, they made the right call.
Agree. I agree.
Tell us about your slab-sided 130-inch 2-ton box.
Well, so I was under the Jaguar Land Rover lock and key Thursday night and Friday day. They very kindly threw me the keys to a Defender 90 to drive down in. Love that thing. The boot is useless, but the rest of it's great. Rear visibility is terrible, but the rest is great. But part of the reason was they laid on a bit of a show at the motor circuit of their own. So they had passenger rides in the new Range Rover Sport SV, the 6,000 million horsepower thing, 170 grand Range Rover Sport, which was really quite fast. It was very, very fast. I mean, it was a very soggy day, and I was with their sort of chief test driver, head of engineering, Matt Becker, who formerly of House Aston Martin and House Lotus.
Yeah.
He took me round and we had a good natter and a catch-up, and he went, yeah, this thing's good, isn't it? I went, yeah, it's really good, I like it. And mega quick. The fit and finish of it obviously is excellent. The detail I really like, which I only noticed when I was looking from the top of the pit lane, is the paddles behind the steering wheel have little Perspex light-up tops.
Oh.
So you can see them in the dark.
Oh, nice. That's a first. I've never seen that on anything else ever.
I like that a lot. That was mega. Also, I drove the new sort of 500 horsepower PHEV Range Rover Sport. That was quite brisk, though it was quite wet. So the chap next to me wasn't Matt Becker. He was a little bit wary that the moron in the driver's seat might punt him off into the distance. So that was more slow and steady wins the race. And we did a little bit of off-roading, so you can drive around the perimeter road of the motor circuit and have a bit of fun there. But yeah, for me, the highlight was really the Defender 130 V8.
Right, it's been promised, hasn't it?
It's a thing. I've done a driving of it.
And how is it?
Is it a BMW V8 in there?
No, this is the 5-litre V8.
Oh, what? The old block?
Yeah, because that's Defender shape. JLR would not confirm whether Defender 130 V8 was the last production car to use the venerable AJ V8. So yeah, it is that one, because the new ones are 4.4 litre, aren't they? So yes, it's a 5-litre V8, 500 horsepower, near as damn it. It's really long. It's a really, really, really long car. I mean, the Defender's short and stubby and looks a bit boxy and grumpy, but look, 130 is massively long. It's huge, absolutely massive.
It's all in the overhang. I remember when that car was announced, because we got so used to the Kurtz look of the 90, when we see the 130, it really looks like it's got a seesaw hanging over the back wheel.
There is some junk in that trunk. I mean, it's enormous. The 110 is, I think, about the sweet spot, but yeah, the 130 is just huge. It's enormous.
Was that your absolute highlight of the whole weekend then, the V8 130? Hang on, we'll come back to you on that. I want to ask Zog. Zog, you watched Goodwood? Did you watch the live stream much?
I watched some of it. I didn't watch all of it. There's something a little bit frustrating about watching something like Goodwood as opposed to a motor race on TV or on a stream. You're just much more inclined to think, oh, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
You know, it's an event that even more than a motor race you want to be at rather than following along remotely. But yeah, there was some spectacular hardware going up the hill. I mean, it was wonderful to see. I mean, I think one highlight was certainly Sebastian Vettel taking the Williams FW14B for a spin, literally. The Mazda 787, Jaguar XJR.
They brought that out again.
Yeah, the Ferrari bread van, BRM V16.
I think we're obliged contractually at this point, Zog, to say that the audio idents, the stings that we use in between bits of Gareth Jones on Speed, the engine sounds, vroom, vroom, that is the BRM V16, isn't it?
It is, that's right. A fantastic bit of British racing history. I would love to have been there for the Porsche celebration.
Oh, that was so cool.
Well, yeah, you must tell us about that in a minute. The other thing that particularly caught my eye was the McLaren Solus GT. Yeah, what a beauty.
Beat me to it. I was just about to say that. Yeah, I mean, that got the fastest time up the hill this year, which was, 45 seconds or something like that. And last year, it was the McMurtry Spearling, which did it in 39 seconds.
Very silly motor car. Very silly motor car. Looks like a running shoe, goes like stink.
Yeah, I love it. Mighty Mouse. That's what it is.
I think that they weren't actually having a go this year. They'd proved their point last year. So this year it was the wonderful, super space-age looking futuristic Solus GT that took the honours.
I am quite in love with the Solus GT, and I think this is probably, if I'm being brutally honest, the first road-going McLaren, sorry, it's not a road car, but you know what I mean, non-race car, that has made me drool. The Speedtail's interesting, but I think it's a bit weird. You know, the P1 and the Senna were interesting cars, but the whole concept of the Solus GT, which is essentially what Caparo were trying to do a few years ago. Do you remember Caparo, an F1 car?
Yeah, with the T1.
Yeah.
The T1. So basically the Solus it's sort of an LMP3, LMP2 car with a Judd V10 in the back of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, not a Judd V10.
No, not Judd V10. It's
No,
not really.
Yeah.
No, not at all. But yeah, it's got a whacking great V10 in it, and having listened to it go full chat up the hill, there was that new Pagani Utopia thing, which was very quiet. And then the Solus appeared and just screamed and screamed and screamed, but then was outdone by the Zonda R that followed it. But it's so bloody noisy, and it doesn't half move. It's a proper quick thing, and it's weirdly pretty in a sort of Minority Report-ish kind of way.
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Absolutely. Proper futuristic, properly sci-fi.
No, properly futuristic, properly cool thing. I enjoyed it. If you've done a Goodwood in the last 4 or 5 years, there's nothing there that would have surprised you or shocked you. I mean, last year the McMurtry Spearling was like the wow, what's that moment? But they bought the Mazda out again. But admittedly, Porsche this year did bring out the entire museum. It was really quite incredible. Lotus had an incredible stand this year. It was right on the first corner. And I asked very nicely if I could go up and borrow their balconies to take some pictures. And they said, yes, of course. So we watched the supercar run go up, so the Pininfarina Battista just appear and then vanish, and the Solus do its thing. And then there was a little bit of a break, so the Porsche celebration could go down to the start line. And so you'd see, 917s, 904s, 935s, 718s, not the rubbishy Boxster thing, but the real one.
Yeah.
911s, the Dakar 959, like all of this ridiculous stuff. And you're like, that's really quite special. That's all really rather lovely. The noises and everything were incredible. And there were 3 of us and we were waiting for it to go up. And then we watched that lovely little Hyundai concept dart up the hill. And he was a little bit squishy around the first corner. And then he forgot to turn left at Moulcom.
I went straight on.
The RN22 concept. It should have gone left, but he sort of forgot. Went through a lot of hay bales.
Yeah.
Because we were wondering, we saw it go and it twitched around the first corner. And it wasn't damp or anything like that. It was a perfectly normal day. And then we thought, oh, it's a bit quiet, isn't it? And then we saw the safety car go up and thought, oh, that's a bit unusual. And then a medical car go up and went, that's a lot unusual, oh dear. And then I jumped on Twitter and immediately someone had clipped the live stream of, massive Hyundai crash. And oh no.
I mean, regarding safety at Goodwood, there were a couple of incidents this year, that one with the Hyundai concept, but also Jag... What was it, Mark II?
Yeah,
the Jaguar wheel.
Jag Mark II, again, on the Thursday afternoon, a wheel decided to go off and go into the crowd.
Nobody seriously hurt? Anyone hurt at all, do we know?
Goodwood has said there are no injuries, so I believe them.
I'm just wondering what the optics, as they say in Succession, are on this. The fact that we had a couple of...
Crossply running straight into someone's face, I imagine.
Yeah, a couple of near misses. Does that mean that they're going to have to put proper fencing up in future?
It did look alarming, and a wheel coming off a car that's going at speed and bouncing into a crowd is not something that you want to happen. At the same time, part of the charm of Goodwood is undoubtedly the fact that you're that much closer to the action than you are at a lot of other events. And, if you're watching everyone go up the hill, there's
a hay bale. There's a bit of space and some hay bale. That is it.
A few metres and some bales. And honestly, I like that. I'm not very good at risk assessment. But I will say that, that wheel bouncing in the way that it did to the crowd did not look very safe. It was not very safe.
No. No, it was not very safe. But thankfully, no one was hurt.
Yeah, no one was hurt.
They got lucky. Whether or not that changes next year for the insurance, I don't know. Part of me is like, hopefully it doesn't, because, as you say, part of the joy of Goodwood is, you can get this close. Like, you can sniff the cars as they go by, but there is a risk in that. So, yeah, I hope they don't change it. I don't know what they can do from the mechanical side of it, reminding their drivers to brake. In fact, I know there is one of the chief test driver for Rimac in the lead up to it was putting some pictures up on his Instagram, and one of them was the driver's briefing, pre-brief bit of paper that says, Molecombe Corner is off camber, goes left, brake early. If you forget, you just won't stop. Like, they knew that could happen, and everyone knows about Molecombe, even if you're driving up at 4 miles an hour, and the rare occasion that I go up, always, oh no, here comes Molecombe, right. Brake, change down, escape quickly, don't go into it quickly. So, yeah, mistakes happen, but the rest of the show was wonderful. It was properly in full swing this year. There was lots of fun stuff going on. Everyone seemed bright and bouncy. On the Friday, it was horribly rainy, though. It was really, really grim. I was glad I wasn't in the regular car park for that one.
Did you get close to an electric E-Type? Have I understood that correctly?
I did, but not at Goodwood. I think the week before, which I still need to write up. Eventually, some copy on that will be on Ars Technica. Sorry, boss, if you're listening, which I know he is.
That's Jonathan Gitling you're talking about.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Who was one of the reasons that we ended up doing the Land's End to John O'Groats in an electric car. It was him, I think, who originated that idea. I saw a picture of a charging point in John O'Groats that Jonathan Gitling had posted, and I thought, that means we could do Land's End to John O'Groats. So, yeah, respect. Hello, Jonathan, if you're listening. Hi, man.
So, yes, I have driven an electrogenic E-Type. I've talked about electrogenic cars before. The basic jam is you give electrogenic your classic car. They will take all the oily bits out and then put in an electric thing. But they'll wire everything up so your dials work the same way they normally would, your fuel gauges, your charge gauge, things like that. It all works just the same. They don't do any real resto modding, if that makes sense. If your car is they'll take one look at it and go, no, this is unsafe, take it away. They can advise you on particular vehicles to buy, I guess, but they're not going to do a Lunaz or an Everati and take in one car and give you back something completely different.
Yeah, it's a kind of sort of more minimal conversion. It's not exactly doing the least you can do to turn it into a proper electric car, but it's a much more limited job.
Yeah, it's a lot more pared back.
And do you know the top speed of this electrogenic E-Type?
I could not reach it, but 100 mile an hour plus is all the website says.
Right. Because don't E-Types lift off above 70 miles per hour? Doesn't the nose become light?
That's 911s.
No, E-Types as well. I think E-Types have an instability thing at the front end, from what I understand.
I didn't experience it. I was given it to hammer around the circuit at Bicester, which was hilarious fun. And they said, right, here's a track, there's a car, off you go, filly boots, bye. And yeah, I just lapped for hours and hours and hours. What it does do is there's 3 kits you can get, E43, E48S and E62, and it's either a 120 or 150 kilowatt hour. On the power, 620 or 840 newton meters at the prop. Top speeds, all 100 miles an hour plus, and the most powerful and torquiest will do 0 to 60 in sub 5. If you go for the one with the most power but the least torque, you get 200 plus miles.
I'm going to say something controversial now.
Oh, yeah.
You know I love EVs, right? I'm a big fan of all EVs. This is the way cars are going now. Zog, you've been a great advocate of converting older cars to EV. It keeps them going on the road. A brilliant idea.
Yeah.
However, is it sacrilege doing it to an E-Type, which should have that lovely woofling, vroveling V12?
No, because those engines, I need to do a little bit of a kind of stompy child thing. I love the romanticism, and I love that people are so into those cars and that engine combination. But have you ever actually worked on an XK engine? Have you had to live with one of those things?
Yeah.
I've driven them for hundreds of miles and get to give them back afterwards, and they've gone pop or stupid stuff's happened to them. They sound great, but you need to fill them up with dead dinosaurs every 20 minutes. This, if you just want something that looks like an E-Type to cruise around in, is great. I was at the Bicester Scramble thing, driving around the circuit in the MOG, and I was a car or two behind the same car I then drove a few weeks later, and there was an old boy with a walking stick, and he was driving the E-Type. He was having a proper go at him. And there was me in the MOG, and he came shuffling over to me and said, oh, this isn't electric, is it? I went, oh, no, engine's up front. God, it's sacrilege they've done that. Oh, how can they do that? And the only thing I could think to say to him was, well, don't do it to yours then.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the choice is there. You don't get the XK motor, but I don't have the energy or the money to work on the XK motor. Depending on which setup you get with the E-Type, it's actually lighter than the original car.
Oh, is
Which
it?
makes it more fun. Yeah.
Well, even with the battery?
About 90 kilos lighter. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to push back a little. I think, working on those horribly unreliable, cranky old engines, maybe that's part of the charm. Maybe that's part of the pact with the devil that you get into when you're running a classic. Maybe, yes, doing the electric conversion is going to give you actually a more practical, more reliable vehicle if you do it properly. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that are running older classic cars are prepared to put up with some of that unreliability for that crappy old character that it has. I mean, I think my bottom line with kind of converting older classic cars to electric is, broadly, I think it's a great way of keeping a lot of these cars on the road, and it's a great way of allowing people to drive vehicles that have a lot more character in a way that is more compatible with at least a medium-term chance of our civilization surviving than carrying on in all of the old ways. I think the rarer a car is and the more the engine is part of what makes that classic a classic, the less inclined I would be to make it electric. But there really aren't that many cars that applies to. Most of them, there are enough of them around that you can go ahead and convert them without losing the last one that's on the road. And, not that many of them have that spectacular engine that you really, really want to hang on to it, I think.
Your mate, the old fella who didn't like the idea of an electric E-Type, reminds me of something someone said, I can't remember who, in the last week, that when you meet someone who's very religious and you perhaps accidentally say something blasphemous, they say, "Oh, you can't say that. You can't say that."
I wouldn't be doing it accidentally.
Yeah,
sorry.
Watch me.
The correct response when somebody says that is, "No. You can't say that because that's what you believe. That's your belief system. I don't have that, so I'm free to say whatever I want." So it's the same with, can you convert all cars to electric? If you don't want it done to your car, you don't have to do it. It doesn't apply to you, right?
Yep. It's the ruddy-faced, gammonish screaming of the internet going, "Oh, dude!" I guarantee none of the people shouting have been anywhere near an E-Type.
Yeah.
So maybe, friends, wind it the in.
And with that thought, I think we'll leave it there. But I invite you all to contact us via any of the methods available. We're on what used to be Twitter. X, really? We're on Facebook. We're even on Reddit. There's a Gareth Jones on Speed Reddit thing now. If you want to come and join me there, I'll send you links, guys. Come and discuss cars there. It would be lovely. But for now, Zog, thank you very much indeed.
Good to see you both.
Alex, thank you very much indeed.
Bye.
And 2 final words from me. 1, I'm going to a motor race this weekend. I'm going to an electric motor race, going to the Formula E Prix.
Are you going to the Formula E? I'm jealous.
I'm going.
I had some people ring me up saying, "Do you want to go?" But I have things on. I'm doing stuff with my boring friends.
Yeah, I've chosen it over qualifying at Spa because I know Max is going to be on pole, almost certainly. But I wouldn't miss the Belgian Grand Prix on Sunday for the World, so I'm going Saturday. And finally, our next show is our annual summer music compilation where we get to have 3 weeks off. So look forward to that. But once again, boys, say bye.
Bye.
And see you soon. Bye.
For information on how to contact the show, see pictures, get song lyrics, follow us on Twitter, find our Facebook fan page, or to sponsor the show, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!